Hey guys, welcome to AI with Supreet. And in this video, we will look into what is semantic kernel and how we can use this to add AI capabilities to our existing app or to new apps. And in this series of videos, we will start learning semantic kernel, and we will go from scratch to create advanced level of agent applications wherein you give it a task and it creates its own task and does the job on its own. So this is the first video, and in today's video, we will see what is semantic kernel and how to get started with it. So, to give you a brief intro, Semantic Kernel is Microsoft's framework that helps you add AI capabilities to your application. It's a fantastic way of adding AI capabilities to your existing application as well as to new applications. And how it works basically is that it's a AI orchestration layer that you can adopt with your application, and on the other side you have all these LLM APIs available, various models available from various LLM providers such as OpenAI, Hugging Face, Azure, even Google Gemini is coming very soon. So yeah, let's get started with semantic kernel, and we will see how we will start with a blank application, and in less than 7 steps we will have an AI capable application. So let's get started with it very quickly. So what we are going to do is I'm going to go ahead into my Visual Studio, and I've created a console application. You will see that in this console application there is nothing but a program.cs file. There is nothing uh, there apart from that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that as well. The very first thing that we will need to do is to go ahead into your uh, NuGet solution project manager, and then make sure that you have installed this Microsoft Semantic Kernel. I have already installed this, so I will go back to my project program.cs, and in here I will go ahead and add my using statements. So I have these two using statements that I need, so we will start from there. Microsoft Semantic Kernel and Microsoft Semantic Kernel connectors.openai. Next, we need before you even start with semantic kernel, you have to have an account with Azure OpenAI or OpenAI credentials. Both will work. I am using Azure OpenAI under Azure Studio, so we will walk through that. So I'll quickly go to my Azure, and you'll see that under Azure AI Studio, I have multiple deployments, and I'm using this SK test deployment, which is based on ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. So I need this deployment name, I need the model name, and I also need the endpoint and the API code for it. How do you get the API code and the endpoint? Is just open this model or deployment in the playground and click on this view code. When you click on this view code, you will get the endpoint as well as the API code. You know, the API code, that it's kind of a secret token that you will need to use along with the endpoint. One thing that you need to make sure in your endpoint is that the endpoint that you will copy from here, it's a very long parameterized endpoint. You do not need everything in there. Trim down the parameters and only use your resource name slash Azure slash AI AI slash dot com, something like that. You do not need the rest of the parameters. We will show you how to do that. And don't make the mistake of using this entire endpoint that you get from here. I was doing the same. It's a mistake. It does not work. And then you will probably save some time if you keep that in mind. So please keep that in mind. Grab all these four values in a notepad and be ready. So I already have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this very quickly. So I will go ahead to my notepad and I will copy this here, and I will hide it so that you don't see it. Now, this is a secret key, and you make sure that you do not, publish the endpoint along with the secret in any public repositories or in videos. So it's not safe. So, all right. Now that we have that in place, let's go ahead and start with our 7 steps. So the first step that we need to do is to go ahead and create a builder. How do you create a builder? Now, it's very simple. Just go ahead and create, use the kernel object, which you will find under Microsoft Semantic Kernel. Use the create builder method, and it will give you an instance of the builder. That is how simple it is. Now the second step is to configure the Azure settings that we just copied. So I created these constant variables already. These are the three things that we grabbed from our Azure AI Studio. That includes your deployment name. In this case, in my case, it is SK test deployment, something like that. Then the endpoint. Make sure that you do not use the parameterized endpoint that you get from Azure. Trim it down. Only the resource names dot azure.com is needed for and then you need the Azure Open API key. Just these three things. I have already placed it there on top, so I'm gonna skip that. So that is your step two. Now, step three is to use this builder along with this API to build and then create a kernel out of it. So we'll go ahead and copy that code as well, and you'll see what is happening in this code is that we are using this build method on top of this builder object that we had created along with the Azure. We gave it the Azure configuration, so we are giving it this Azure configuration and we are saying, hey, give us the kernel now, the instance of the kernel. This is the basic setup required to instantiate semantic kernel. And now that you have all these three things ready and in place, you are good to go with semantic kernel. Your application is good enough to go ahead and start using the AI capabilities. For addition, we will keep it very simple. Next, we want to see what we want to do with our API, with our code. So in my code, what we are going to do is we are going to summarize a large text into one single line. So what I'm going to do in step number 4 is that I'm saying, hey, my prompt is that I will supply you with an input, and your job, AI, your job is to give me a one line summary of that large text input, right? Make sure that you are using this dollar sign, and make a note of this variable token that you are using here. In my case, it's input. We will need this, and remember this, and make a good note of what the name of this variable is. We will talk about this a little later. So that is your 4 steps. Next, go to the step number 5. Now, what we will do is that now that we have a prompt, we will go ahead and tell the kernel that, hey, kernel, this is the kernel that we created in step 3. We are going to use this method called create a function from the prompt. What this method does is that it takes this prompt and it creates a function out of it, and the function is called summarize. In our case, we have also given it the name here, and then you can also optionally give it some execution settings such as the maximum tokens, top p, the temperature, and otherwise there are a lot of other settings that we will talk about in a different video. So you give it these settings, and what we are doing here again is we are using this prompt and creating a function out of it. If you have a very simple prompt, then this is a good way of creating a function out of it. If you have a complex prompt, then there are multiple different ways of creating functions out of them as well, that we will see in later on videos, in the future videos. Okay, so that is 5 steps. Now the sixth step is to just go ahead. We are almost there. The sixth step is to just go ahead and copy some sample data. So what I have done here is I have created these two sample texts over here. One is Newton's laws, and the other one is 3 laws of thermodynamics, which you will see that is more than one lines, and it's quite complex text to understand. So we will use this text, and then as the last step, what we will do is we will go ahead and execute this code and pass these, the long text as input to our method, summarize method, and then we will invoke the code. The AI code will call the existing OpenAI code to summarize it and give us the result. So what we are doing here is that we are using the kernel, we are using the invoke async, and we are saying that call this summarize method and give it this input. Now remember, this input is the same as this input token that you gave here. Make sure that this value and this value are both same. Do not make a mistake of not keeping them same. Otherwise, you will run into some compilation issues. So don't do that. And make sure that there is a dollar sign over here before this token, as to denote that this is a variable. So now that is done. Now what we are doing here is we are saying that, hey, take this input, which is text one, this one, and summarize that in one line or in fewest words, right? And in the second one, we are doing it for the second text, which is the thermodynamics laws, and then we are printing it on the console. So I think that's all about it. We are good to go. So let's go ahead and run this. I am running this now, and you will see that we will see a console window hopefully, and it will call the AI APIs in Azure, and it did that. Oh, it says, yeah, it says, see, inertia F equal to ma equal and opposite reactions. It actually summarized this first text into a one liner. And oops, if I go back here, yeah, you will see that for the second one, it also summarized it into one line saying energy is conserved, entropy increases, absolute zero has zero entropy, which I don't understand a bit of, but yeah, there we go. So you see how easy it is to create, AI enabled applications with semantic kernel. We will review all the seven steps that we did. First is to add semantic kernel you get in your application. Then go ahead and create a builder object. Give it the Azure settings as step two. Then build using the Azure settings to create a kernel instance. Then finally give it a prompt. Use the prompt to create a method out of it. And then finally give it some text data. Use the method, pass the inputs, and invoke that method by passing those inputs, and then you print the results. So you see how easy it is to use semantic kernel and add AI capabilities to your applications. This was a pretty simple application. In the future videos we will see how you can further um, create complex applications. In fact, in the next video we will see how you can use these prompts not from the C# code but from different files, how you can read these prompts from different files and have multiple such prompts in one semantic kernel code. We will see that in our next video. So see you again. Bye bye.